Good morning, students. Good morning to all. Yesterday we have studied about the trade cycle and we have missed some of the main concept of inflation and disinflation and stagflation. Just we will remind about the trade cycle and some of the yesterday portion also. Okay. After that we will go the new concept. Yesterday we have studied some of the measures to controlling the inflations, right? In these measures to controlling the inflations we have studied so the three types. So one is the monetary measures and another one is fiscal measures. So yesterday we have studied these two measures. In these measures how can we reduce the inflation situations, but in some of the time the government also will take some of the other measures. So under these measures, so the government can adapt the two type of the measures to controlling the inflation. First one is short-term measures. The short-term measures can be regulated to public distribution of scarce essential commodities through fair prices policies and the rationing. Okay, so in the time of inflation or in the time of deflation, so even in this time of inflation, if there is more demand and the people also doesn't have the money, so the government will distribute the basic necessity of goods to the public in the way of fair prices shops. So normally we will say the ration shops. So on the basis of ration shops, so the government will undertaking the effort, so in which all the peoples can get the basic necessary goods. So in India, the shortage of basic goods has been the government has resorted to import, so that inflation may not get triggered. Okay, in the time of inflation, if there is more demand and there is low supply, mean the government will import all the commodities what we being in need of the commodities. Okay, suppose if the price of the rice is very higher and the supply of the rice is also very low, means so the government will importing the rice from other nations and it will be come to the supply. Okay, so the price will not be increase because the supply may be as reasonable. Okay, so in this measure, so we can make the normal things under the short-term measures. So the government will be arranged the fair price shops such as the ration shops and other ways. Okay, so what are the basic necessities is existing in our nations? So all the basic necessity of goods will be distributed the way of ration shops, and other type is, so the government will be importing the goods and it will be come to the market with the low price. Next, long-term measures. So in the long-term measures will require accelerating the economic growth, so especially of the wage goods which have direct bearing on the general price and the cost of living. Okay, so normally, so we have to accelerate the economic growth. So how can we accelerate the economic growth? Mean, so the wage goods, so for producing the wage or producing any of the commodities, the wage may be reduced and the public also have to accept the low wages and the so many of the production will be produced. So because of that, so without any price of the commodities, without increasing the price of the commodities, so we can get the profit, we can get the commodities at the fair prices. Okay, and not only that, some restrictions on present consumption may help in improving the saving and investment, which may be necessary for accelerating the rate of economic growth in the long run. So normally, if the public individuals reduced their daily consumption at present, so the demand will be come to under control. Okay, so on the basis of the reduce the demand of the commodities, so price automatically will be decrease. Okay, and not only that, suppose if we are reducing our consumption at present, so it will be leading to the economic growth in long term measures. Okay, next, some of the concept, that is the deflation. Deflation is also one of the concept. It is the opposite of the inflation situations. So already I told the inflation means price of the commodity is increasing continuously in course of time. So on the controversy, the deflation means the price of the commodity will be very low and the availability of commodities also will be in very low. So normally if you want to say, so the value of money may be higher. The value of money is higher and the volume of money is very low. Okay, so there is no money in our economy. In economy, if there is no money, so the value of money will be higher. Okay, there is more production or there is so more supply will be there, but the people will not be able to purchasing the commodities because of no money in their hand. Okay, so in these situations the employment problem also will be occurs and there is no economic growth. There is no supply of money by the Reserve Bank of India. So all the basis of trade cycle will be meet in the depression basis. Okay, so the deflation is when the general price level in a country are falling. Okay, so the price level of the general commodity will be in low or it will be falling continuously. Okay, so why the price of the commodity is falling continuously? So if there is no money in the consumer's hand, but in the same time the supply of commodities may be higher, but in the same time, so the people doesn't have the money to purchasing that commodities due to unemployment job and there is no economic growth and the trade cycle also will be in the basis of depressions. Okay, so it is caused by an increase in productivity, a decrease in overall demand. So the productivity or the level of productions will be increased, but in the same time the overall demand will be decreased or it will be in low. If there is no demand, if the producers only increasing the supply of commodities, so all the produced commodities will be stocked in our market. Okay, because the persons doesn't have able to purchasing the money. So the essential features of deflation is falling prices, reduced money supply and unemployment. So just to think yourself, if there is no employment opportunity and there is no money supply, and what will happen? So the supply or the demand of the commodity will be reduced considerably, right? So automatically the price of the commodities also will be reduced. But even though the public will unable to purchasing the commodities, even if there is low price of commodities, okay, due to unemployment and low money supply. So though falling prices are desirable at the time of inflation, such a fall should not lead to fall in the level of production and employment. So even if the price of commodity is reduced in the time of inflation or the beginning the time of deflation, it is acceptable. So continuously if the price of the commodity is reduced in the time of deflation, the producer or the entrepreneur will be affected. So but if prices fall from the level of full employment, both income and employment will be adversely affected. So all the persons, all the factor of productions are having the full employed. All the resources are using by the producers with full employed. But the prices of commodities very low means the producers will be affected. And the income also will be affected. Right? So the producers also not able to providing the employment opportunity to the public. Okay, so the deflation is the controversy or opposed phenomenon of the inflation situations. Here the price of the commodity will be very low and the supply of commodities also may be higher. The purchasing power of the consumer also very low. Next, disinflations. So disinflations means what? In the name itself we can understand. So the disinflation is the slowing down the rate of inflations by controlling the amount of credit available to consumers without causing more unemployment. Okay, so what are the measures have to take by reducing the inflation situations is called disinflations, or the slowing down the basis of rate of inflations is called disinflations. Okay, so disinflation is the slowing down the rate of inflations. How it will be reduce the inflations mean by controlling the amount of credit available to the consumers. So normally when the consumers will spend more money when they have the more amount in their hand. Okay, and if the commercial banks are providing the more credit facilities for consuming the commodities. Okay, but now if the commercial banks and the Reserve Bank of India also reduced the credit availability to the consumers and entrepreneurs, so normally so the purchasing power or the wants of purchasing the consuming the commodities will fall. Okay, but without more unemployment, so the employment opportunity have to provide and the credit facilities have to control. Next concept is stagflation. So stagflation is a combination of stagnant economic growth, high unemployment and high inflations. Just to think yourself in an economy, so the three situations are being, that is the economic growth, stagnant economic growth. Stagnant economic growth means there is no economic growth, and high unemployment and high inflations. So normally the inflation time, so the more the price of commodity will be increasing continuously and the value of money also will be very low. In these situations, so the peoples are being without employment opportunity. So the peoples also will be affected very worst. The same time, if there is no economic growth, the nation also will be affected. Then one side the stagnant economic growth and the high unemployment problem will be there, and in the same time the high inflations also will be existing in our nations. Okay, so in this stage there is no economy will be improved. The people also will be affected by all the events. Okay, so when we are comparing to the inflation and the deflations, the stagflation only is the very dangerous and unacceptable phenomenon in our economy. Okay, understand? So in a situation, so the stagnant economic growth, high unemployment and high inflation is existing, so that situation is called as stagflation situations. Okay, in these situations no economy will recover from this stage. Okay, by to recover from the stagflations, so more effect and the more help by the other nations also is needed. Next, just we will remind the trade cycle. Yesterday also we have studied the trade cycle. So the trade cycle is composed of period of good characterized by rising prices and low unemployment and percentage altering with the periods of bad trade characterized by falling prices and high unemployment percentage. So the economy will facing the up and downward slowing movement. So in these four bases of trade cycle, the economy will facing more prosperities in our economy, and in the another basis of the trade cycles, then there is no economic growth, there is no employment opportunity, there is more purchasing power. Okay, so the every situations will be come and go again and again. So in this basis of trade cycle, so the four bases are there. First one is boom or prosperity, and the recession period, and that one is depression period. Fourth one is recovery period. Okay, first in the boom situations. First, if you are thinking when economy is in these boom situations mean the full employment and the movement of the economy beyond full employment is characterized as a boom period. Okay, so in this boom period, so all the employment, all the factor of productions will be having this full employed. So in this period, there is hectic activity in economy. Hectic activity means so the money wages rises. Money wages means all the wages for the factor of productions may be higher or it will be rising again and again. Okay, so whenever the money wages are increasing, so the peoples will be have the more purchasing power and automatically their living standard will be increase. Okay, so whatever they want to consume, so they can easily consume. Okay, so when there the factor of production or the labors are having the high income, so automatically their living standard of the people and the purchasing power also will be increase. Okay, next profit increase and interest rates also will be increase. Okay, so whenever in this boom period the profit for the all entrepreneurs and the producers will be get higher, and because of that the investment level also will be increased. Okay, so when there is more profit and more investment mean what will happen, so again and again, so the production and the market and the productivity will be increased, then the economy also will have more chance to earning the more income, then the GDP and our national income also will be increased. Okay, so the trade cycle will be in high prosperity level. Okay, so the demand for bank credit also increase and there in all round optimism. Okay, if there is more demand for the bank credit and the availability of bank credit is also provided by the bank, so the every producers, entrepreneurs and the channel of distributors and even the consumers also will have the chance and power to do it. Okay, because of that, so the economy, the whole economy will be having prosperity level. Okay, if there is no problem, all the peoples of one country will be in higher standard of living. Okay, so next the recession period. So the turning point from boom condition is called recession. Okay, so normally by having the low interest or even if there is one upswing, so after that the downswing will be there. It is the nature, right? So this happens at higher rate than what was earlier. So because of the availability of credit facilities provided by the commercial banks, it will be fixing the high rate of interest because all the peoples are having the money and they won't consider about the rate of interest, but the rate of interest is increasing continuously, so the repaying the recapacity of the money of consumer and the entrepreneurs also will be affect sometimes, so the peoples will fail to repay the money, and by having the more assaultness, so the trader or the consumer also will not increase their production activities and they will lose their interest and because some of the careless. So generally the failure of company or bank bust the boom and brings a base of recession. So the bank or the failure of the company. Okay, suppose in this boom situation, so all the companies, all the production, all the productivities also will be in higher. Okay, just because of any one of the reasons, if the companies are failed or the bank also just reduce to their credit facilities and increase the rate of interest, so all the consumer and the entrepreneur will be affected to having the more money, so the boom level will be fell down slowly. So the investment are drastically reduced, production comes down and income and profits also will be declined. Okay, so on the basis of credit facilities provided by the commercial bank only, so the producers can make the more investment, and the consumer also will have the more purchasing power. Okay, but if the banks are stopped to provide the rendering the money to the consumers and the investors, so the investment will be reduced, and because of that it will be reduced everything. Okay, so the profit and the investment and the capital formation also will be reduced because of reducing the credit availability provided by the commercial banks. Okay, then the boom from the recession period will be created from the boom situations. Okay, there is panic in the stock market and the business activity, so signs of dullness. Okay, so on the basis of reducing the recession, the trade cycle, so all the value of commodities will be reduced in our share market. Then the investors are investing on the share market also will be reduced, right? Next, depression. This is the depression field. Okay, so normally the trade cycle will be moving from the recession, depression, recovery, boom. Again it will be fell down to the recession, depression and recovery, like that it will be moving. Okay, next period is depression. So during depression the level of economic activity becomes extremely low. During depression situation means just you think there is the deflation situations maybe occurs. Okay, so the firms incur losses and the closure of business becomes a common failure, and the ultimate result in unemployment. So if there is no more productions and no more credit facilities mean, so the producers will be reduced to the employer, existing employer from their production unit, and the new persons also will not have the chance to get the employment opportunity. And interest price, profit and wages also low. Interest price and profit and wage also will be low means, so the supply of the commodities may be reduced, and because of that the producers also will not providing the more wages, right? So the industry also will be reduced. Next, the depression is the worst base of the business cycle. So extreme point of depression is called through because it is the T point of the business cycle. So in this trade cycle itself, the depression point is the worst of the bases. So any person feel down in deeps could not come out from that without others' help. So in this depression field, any of the entrepreneur, any of the producers fell down to the losses, so they cannot come out without any others' help. So next is recovery. So the depression field is depression bases are existing in our economy, and the economy also must have taking the effort to recover from these situations. Then only the economy will moving smoothly. Then what can we do? So we have to take more effort to recover from the depression field. So this is the turning point from depression to revival towards upswing. So what we have to do to recover from the depression field, everything have to take by the government and the producers and even the single persons. It begins with the revival of demand for capital goods. So we have to make the demand for capital goods. So because of creating the demand for the capital goods, automatically the consumer goods will be increased, and the prices of commodities also will be reduced. Okay, if the demand, if there is more supply with the low cost of production, low price of the commodities mean, so the persons will have the chance to earn in the commodity. So the demand slowly picks up, and in due course the activity is directed towards the upswing with more production, profit, income, wages and employment. So because of the help of the capital goods, so the consumer good also will be increased, and the supply of commodities will be increased with the low price. So because of increasing the more production, so the consumer also or the employer also will get the more wages, and because of that they will make more savings. Then whatever will happen with beneficiary, everything will be happen in our economy. So recovery may be initiated by innovation or investment or by government expenditures. Okay, the some of the innovations are the investment on the production which has already existing in our economy is bringing the demand for the commodities, and the wages also may be increased. So the basis of data cycle will be moving from one base to another one of the base again and again. So the boom or prosperity situation and the recession and depression and recovery, the four bases are already arise again and again. Okay, because of the more factors. Okay students, in this area if you have any doubt, please ask me. And today we couldn't go to the next lesson, so tomorrow we will go to the next lesson as freshly. Okay, thank you.